Long suffering and temperance, escape Babylon and be safe during pestilence. All praises to Yahweh, his almighty excellence. What you know about
Los hebreos, los cubanos, los indígenas de Cuba y de Puerto Rico son hebreos? Yeah,
I heard a little bit of it.
yeah, that's what we teach. We teaching, you know, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that we are the Hebrews of the Bible, right? We,
3 categories on there.
yeah.
Yeah, bro, we saying that we all one family, you know what I'm saying? We might have different shade, you know, different skin tones and different hair textures, you know, but we all come from the same stock and same family, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And if you read this Bible, and that's why our people are so Catholic, are so Christian, because we're drawn to this Bible. This Bible is our history, right? Jesus Christ was our ancestor, Moses, all the prophets, right? We really believe that we are the bloodline descendants of those people. And if you read the Bible, you would read what would happen to these people, right? And it just so happens that God's chosen people, the 12 tribes on this chart, were prophesied to go through curses for disobeying God's commandments. And when I look in the world today, I see the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that we don't keep God's commandments. And it just so happens we are a cursed people. We go through generational curses, right? The same curses that our communities go through are the same curses that the Bible said that God's chosen people will go through for disobeying him. So when we just line up prophecy, history, archaeology with the Bible, it leads us to the conclusion that we are those people, right? So that's what we're out here teaching. We're trying to remind our people who they are, where they came from, who their God is, and what our culture was, right?
Yeah,
our culture is this Bible. Our culture is the law, statutes, and commandments of God, right? He gave that to the Israelites, right, his chosen people, to get that in 4 and 6 real quick, right? Just even the reason why he gave them commandments, right, is a very special reason that we don't even think about, right? Because everyone knows, you know, the 10 commandments, right? But in the Bible, like let me ask you this. You ever heard that pork is unclean in the Bible? Right?
Yeah.
So that's a dietary law, right? That's outside the 10 commandments, but that's still a commandment of God that he gave his people not to do, right? Bring that out.
Got you. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5.
This is why he gave them rules and regulations.
Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me.
Right? This is Moses talking to the Israelites saying, you know, these are why we got the commandments, right? Keep going.
Even as the Lord my God commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it.
Right? Moses told his people, we're supposed to keep these laws wherever we go, right? Keep going.
Right? Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations.
Right? It was supposed to be for our wisdom, right? So when other people saw us, they're going to be like, damn, those people don't eat pork and they don't get sick and they don't get diseases and they live long lives. Those people don't eat shrimp, crab, pork, lobster. That's wise of those people to do. Those people keep a Sabbath day. They take one day out the week where all they do is rest, and they have a mental health day, right? That's a wise and understanding people. That's why God gave us those rules, so other nations could look at us as wise, right? Keep going.
Yep. Going off what you just said. Yeah, right. Which, Salakia, of the nations which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
Right. God wanted his people to be looked at as wise and understanding people. So he gave them knowledge that will make them wise in the sight of other nations, right? Keep going.
Yep. For what nation is there so great who hath God so nigh unto them?
Right. The other nations were supposed to see us and be like, damn, God's literally talking to this people, right? We were supposed to be looked at, right? The Bible says we're supposed to be a light to the Gentiles, right? We're supposed to be the light of the world, where the world, the nations of the world would come to us and we would teach them about God. But we never did that. We always wanted to keep disobeying God, right? That's the whole story of the Bible, right? The Israelites, God's chosen people, he gets them out of Egypt, let my people go. And then from there, they just worship other gods, go into idolatry, break the law, statutes, and commandments, and they just go into captivity after captivity after captivity. Even Jesus Christ, right? When he was born, the Jews were in captivity to the Romans, right? They were under Roman occupation, right? So, again, the Bible speaks about this happening. Are you holding some? Get Deuteronomy 30.
I'm right here.
Right? We are in these last days where our people, right, the real Hebrews, are starting to remember themselves, right? Look, that's funny I even said that, right? What Puerto Rican sandwich is really famous here in Chicago? What's it called? Was it? What? No. Puerto Rican sandwich. A famous Puerto Rican sandwich in Chicago. A jibarito, right? What's a jibaro? A mountain man.
They made that claim to esteem us as undereducated.
But a Hebrew, they were just calling themselves Hebrews. That's Hebrew. That's literally them calling themselves Hebrews, right? When you go into bring that out, I'll show you something too, right?
Yeah, I want to show you something too. Yeah. Sorry, 30, 31.
Yeah.
31. Okay, yeah. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse.
Right. In the last days, right? Once all the blessings and the curses, once all this has transpired to these people, right?
Yep. The blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee.
Right. So it's prophesied that his people will start calling these things to mind, right? Will start reminding people of these things, that we are the Israelites. We used to live like this. This is our heritage. This is our culture. This is our God, right? When that starts to happen,
right? And shall return unto the Lord thy God.
Right. Have to return to the Lord God.
And shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day.
Right. We have to obey the law. Said, right. Again, something that the Israelites never did. We have to start keeping the laws of God.
Right. Thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul.
Right. We're supposed to be teaching our children these laws, right? Once we actually start doing it,
that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee.
Right. The curses will stop, right? Would you not say that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we go through generational curses, right? For some reason, we are the people who got enslaved, who got raped, robbed, murdered, who the whole world came and pillaged our belongings, right? Going into that, right? The island of Puerto Rico. Did you know that Puerto Rico has more Hebrew artifacts than Israel itself? There's been more Hebrew artifacts found in Puerto Rico.
Whole cities.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
I lived there for like 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Opening up a house, just like a whole town.
Hell yeah, bro. Even in like, you know, parts of Central America, you got different artifacts that actually go back, you know, to Hebrew artifacts as well, right? There's an artifact in New Mexico because, of course, before colonization, New Mexico, California, all the way down into Mexico, that was originally called Mexico, right? So there's actually an artifact called the Los Lunas Decalogue Stone, right? It's like a big old, it's like a plaque that's kind of like the size of this mirror right here, right?
It's a rock.
And it actually has the 10 Commandments on there written in Paleo Hebrew, right? It dates back to over like 2,000 years ago, bro. You know what I'm saying? And of course, we know y'all are indigenous to this land. Nobody else, you know, how you have to ask yourself, how is it that the natives here, of course, they were already here, but they have Hebrew artifacts found in the Americas. That tells you that they came from somewhere else, right? And from Israel. Yo.
Right. So look. So right there, that's the article. 800 ancient stones with Hebrew writing in Puerto Rico authenticated, right? And these are the stones. And when you zoom into them, that's ancient. That's what I have right here. Ancient Paleo Hebrew. And there's 900 of these, right? You could go through all these. And these are actually, they said that these are in the shape of a priest, right? A Hebrew priest. And they got the Hebrew written all over it, right? That was found in Puerto Rico. I'm going to show you what he just talked about in New Mexico.
Yeah.
The Los Lunas Decalogue Stone.
I can put it up on my phone, so like I say.
I got it right here.
Okay,
right, which is the same thing with the same Hebrew writing, right? Like I told you, it's just a giant ass rock. But those are the 10 Commandments and Paleo Hebrew that were found here in New Mexico, right? This is hundreds of tons, right? I think there's a picture with a man. You'd be able you just see how big the stone actually is, right? You can't move that. It wasn't brought here on a ship, right? This was here. The natives inscripted on it, and it was found like that, right? So we got to ask ourselves, why are there so many Hebrew artifacts here in America, right? Who are the Hebrews, right? Because even throughout the Bible, during Jesus' time, right, they were called the lost sheep of the house of Israel, because the 10 tribes, the lost 10 tribes, that they weren't talked about after the Assyrian captivity, right? Get that real quick, how they got over here, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave you with this, right?
Yep.
Just to prove that, you know,
yeah,
we could back up the claims that we're making, right?
Yeah.
I already partially believe in like current Hebrews and Israelites. They're living out a stolen identity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Exactly.
No group of people would get a genocide done upon them and carry it out.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Look at that.
That's a con. That's the spirit con.
Bring that out. though.
Second Ezra 13, chapter Second Ezra 13 and 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king.
Right. So real quick, I don't know if you know too much about Bible history, but after, you know, King Solomon, right? The wisest king on earth, right? He was king of the 12 tribes, right? But when he died, you had the tribes, they kind of got in an argument where they split down the middle, and it became a southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, right? That's why during the time of Jesus Christ, all you hear about is the Jews, because they were the only ones there at the time. That was the southern kingdom. This is talking about the northern kingdom and what happened to them, right? So just start from the top again.
Yep. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king.
So that's what happened. That's really was the first split, right? They were carried away captives by an Assyrian king, and then the southern kingdom, they were carried away by a Babylonian king, right? So we were taken into two separate captivities, right? But this is what we did. I'm saying we because I would be from the tribe of Issachar, you would be from the tribe of Joseph, so we would be northern kingdom tribes, right? We got taken into this captivity, and this is what we did, right? Bring that out.
Whom Salmanessar, the king of Assyria, led away captive.
Right, and you can look him up, King Salmanessar of Assyria.
Yep. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land.
Right, so he separated them from their brothers.
But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt.
And that's important, right? We said we don't want to be in slavery to these Assyrians. We're going to leave them. We're going to go somewhere where never mankind dwelt, right? Now, during this time, right, you had China, you had Israel, you had Africa, right? You have what you would now call Europe today, but they didn't know about what they call the fourth part of the world, right? They didn't know about the Americas during this time, right? America during the time of Ezra would be a place where never mankind dwelt, right? Keep going.
That they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land.
And that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to get to a place where they could start keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of God, right? That's why even when you go into the Mayans, the Incas, the Aztecs, why did we build large and elaborate temples, right? Where temple worship, the same way that is written about in Leviticus, the same Hebraic cultures that were carried out in Leviticus, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incas were doing, right? Because that's what we came over here to do. We wanted to keep our commandments, right? But keep going.
Yep. They never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passage of the river.
Right, and that gives us how they got here, right? They took the Euphrates from the Middle East, and you can pull up on the map. It directly comes all the way to America.
Yep. For the Most High then shewed signs for them and held still the flood, so they were passed over.
Basically, God guided them over here to the Americas.
Right? For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half.
Even that checks out, right? To get from Israel or the Middle East to here in America, it would take roughly around a year and a half for that, right?
Right? And that same region is called Arsareth.
That's the most important part, right? The Bible says that what?
That same region is called Arsareth.
That same region is called Arsareth, right? Now let me just leave you with this, what Arsareth is, right? Arsareth. In the Jewish Encyclopedia, right? Again, just so you can see, the Jewish Encyclopedia, right? Arsareth, right? The name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel would dwell, observing the laws of Moses. We just read all of that. Until the time of the restoration, according to Ezra, right? Columbus identified America with this land, right? Letting you know that Columbus had a mission, right? I don't know how current you are with all these things that are coming out, but it recently did come out that they believe Christopher Columbus was a crypto Jew, right? And that really he was sailing in 1492. He sailed because the Jews were expelled from Spain at that time, right? But again, him being Jewish, right, he would have been reading Ezra, right, where it talked about the 10 tribes coming to America, to Arsareth, right? And the Jewish Encyclopedia, it had written down that he identified America with Arsareth, right? So you got to ask yourself, right? Because even that, right? We have the story that Columbus came and that he thought that he was going to find India, and that's why when he came here and he saw the people, he called them Indians because he thought he was in India, right? If he believed that he was coming to India, why did he have a Hebrew interpreter on the ship with him, right? He knew he was coming to, he knew he was looking for the Hebrews, and when he got here, you could go Spanish, what's the other one? Spanish and Portuguese friars and priests and whatnot, they wrote down that they believed that the indigenous peoples were Hebrews from the Bible, the lost 10 tribes. Because really, the whole time people were looking, where are these lost 10 tribes? Where are these God's chosen people, right? It happened to be the indigenous peoples of America, right? So again, like I read you in the beginning, right? We're just out here, we're trying to bring these things to mind, right? Remind our people of who they are, who their God is, and what our culture was. And as soon as we start adhering to that, right, all these curses that we're going through, we just want them to stop, man. We just want to reverse the curse.
I want to read this too, right? Where is it? Second Ezra, right? Baruch 2:30. That's one lead is too, right?
Talking about Baruch?
Yeah. This is Baruch chapter 2, verse 30. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves.
Right. So in the land of their captivities, that's a prophecy throughout the whole Bible, right? That the Israelites will have to remember themselves in their captivity and get back to doing what they were supposed to do, right? They got into the captivity for disobeying God's commandments. The only way to get out of captivity is to start obeying them, right?
Exactly.
So that's what we're out here doing.
Yeah, understanding, I didn't mean to cut you off, but understanding who you are, your culture, understanding why we're in the predicament that we're in right now, because, we're supposed to be the rulers over this entire earth, but we're not right now. And the reason for that is because the Most High God gave us a certain set of rules and instructions that we didn't adhere to, right? With great power comes great responsibility. There's no coincidence that we do everything the best as so-called blacks and Hispanics. We're the best cooks, we're the best singers, we're the best dancers, right? We do everything the best, but we're not looked at as the best, right? Because with great power comes great responsibility, right? That responsibility is us obeying God's commandments, coming back into the culture that He gave us, right? And that's what it is. Oh.
And it's so important. It's so important. Real quick, I'll let you go after this, right? You just think about it, right? Our communities, blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, we're really the ones who pack up these church houses, right? But the religion of Christianity and Catholicism has done us a disservice, because they preach that the Old Testament is done away with and that you don't have to keep God's statutes, laws, or commandments anymore, right? You could go to a church where they'll sell on the Sabbath day. They won't keep a Sabbath day. They'll sell you pork tamales after the church service, right? Lechon and shit after church, right? But again, it's these institutions that have taught us that it's okay to disobey God. It's America that's taught us that it's okay to disobey God. But the only reason why they push that is because they know as long as we're disobeying God, they're able to be on top of us, right? God,
long suffering and temperament, escape Babylon and be safe during pestilence. All praises to you.
All praises to the Most High God. In the name of His only begotten Son, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you listening and the support.